you spent 9 months pregnant and now your baby's born and you get to spend time with him for weeks, maybe, but then it's time to go to work and you have to choose a daycare, an early learning program for your child. But oh my God, it's so hard to leave your newborn baby or your 2 or your 3-year-old for the first time in preschool. It's nerve-wracking. But today we have an expert that will guide you to the process on how to pick the best early childhood program from your child and stay confident that your child is learning and growing in the perfect place for your child. Here we have Misti Castner, a super expert. How are you doing today?
You know what? I'm doing fantastic today. Thank you.
Well, just walk us through the process. I mean, let's start with what's the anxiety that parents go through when they have to actually place their child for the first time?
You know, I always tell parents, you've had a lot of hard days in your life, but you have never had a day where you have to turn your child over to somebody else that you don't know. That is definitely going to be the hardest day of their life. But I think that just easing them into it when they come into a center and they kind of feel, when you walk into a center, you should feel the atmosphere should feel calming, but yet inviting. And I think that's really the main thing that you're going to look at to start with. But there's so many different things that a parent is going to look at as they walk through a center and through a tour as well.
Well, let's decode that, okay? Because what are the elements of a quality preschool? What should a parent be looking for when they walk for the first time into a preschool setting?
Absolutely. So, you know, when you walk in, you're going to hear all kinds of things. It's a childcare center. Of course, you're going to hear some crying going on in the baby room, that kind of thing. But you really want to listen to the staff. You want to listen and see how the staff are handling each situation. Remember, kids have big emotions all the time, and the teachers are having to guide those emotions. Your child is going to have those emotions as well. Listen to the staff as you're walking through the building and see how they're interacting with the children, because that's really what you're looking for. You're going to be looking for compassionate people that are interested in being there and really are taking to heart your child's feelings and how you're going to help work through those.
And how about security? What are the risks? Because in a setting where there's so many kids, like what elements of the security of the facility should be looking for?
Absolutely. Number one, I don't think you should be able to come into a facility and just open a door and walk on in, because you're inviting anybody off of the street. I think that it is very crucial that, number one, you can have sight of who's on the other side of your door, whether that be through a camera or through glass. You also should have some kind of a security pad, because I would want to know that only people that are supposed to be in the facility have the ability to be in the facility. So no one can just walk off the street. A lot of facilities have keypads where parents are issued a number, and that's how they're going to get in every day. They also use that same number to check their child in, because of course you want to make sure that the child is being checked in and checked out every day. So you always know who is in your building at all times.
And you brought a very important point. So the most important thing in a childcare center is the staff, right?
Yes,
is the
absolutely.
Staff and who's there. Yet we are facing a national crisis that it is the most biggest challenge in the entire industry is finding the people to work in this type of settings.
You are correct.
So, how is it? How is it that centers can overcome that, or what should parents be looking for?
So I think that, I think that falls back on the facility and not as much, on the parent. Of course, the parent is evaluating everything as they walk through the facility, but it's really important the process that a center director is going to go through to find that right person. And just like I said in the beginning, A parent should be able to feel it. When they come into your facility, they should be able to feel your culture and feel the type of atmosphere that you have inside of your facility. You need the same thing when you're interviewing teachers. You need somebody that's going to be energetic, that's kind of going to light up when they start talking about children and when they talk about their class and the things that they like to do with their class. And then you also have to take into consideration as a center director, who is this person going to be working with on a daily basis? You want to make sure that you're putting compatible teachers together that are going to be a dynamite team for the age group that you're looking for. You need to have the right teacher in the appropriate age group as well.
So you have different personality profiles for different age groups?
Absolutely.
Ah, really? Like what? How would you describe those personalities? That sounds like fun.
Yes. So, you have to have somebody that's going to be just kind of calming and nurturing in your infant room because, listen, there's huge emotions going on in an infant room every day, and you need somebody who's going to be able to tackle that. But yet you need that energetic teacher that's just going to be crazy and get out there with the children, is going to play with them on the playground, is going to be down on the floor with them, is going to listen to what the children need. They're going to be able to listen. That's the kind of person you're going to want in your preschool classroom, in your 3 and 4-year-old classroom. And listen, we all know about the 2-year-olds. The 2-year-olds, you have to have that right person for the 2-year-olds also, because that's a difficult age. They're coming into really being able to talk now, and they have their own personalities. They know what they like and what they don't like. And somewhere in between all of that, you've got to find time for potty training, and you've got to be able to get all of them potty trained and ready for that next age group as well. It takes a special teacher to work in a 2-year-old class.
Oh my God. And what about the 3s and 4s teachers?
So the 3s and 4s are those ones that just have to be super, they have to be energetic, but they have to have that knowledge for learning because, there comes a point in time when we are no longer teachers, but we're facilitators. The children are going to start leading their day. For instance, you can have a beautiful lesson plan today, and when we go out on the playground, the children see a frog. Well, guess what? Everything for the rest of your day is going to be about that frog. So you have to have a teacher that's going to be able to change gears and is going to be able to come in and do research with them. If they're wanting to know all about frogs, they have to be flexible enough to be able to go with the flow of their children. And at this point, you're just facilitating their learning. You're an active participant, but you're no longer guiding it. You have to go with your children.
Absolutely. So, and then tell me about routines, because that is something very important. So what about, and this is an element of quality too, following that consistent routine. Why is that important for a child and for a childcare center?
Listen, I think that everybody thrives on routines. Whether you realize it or not, we as adults, you have a routine. From the second you wake up in the morning, you have your routine of maybe it's get up and you go to the bathroom, you go in and you make your coffee, you go in and take your shower, brush your teeth. You have a routine, whether you realize it or not. You do the same thing at the same time and in the same order every day because you thrive on that. That's what keeps your day going. Children are the same way. Your children need that same structure. And therefore, that's what you're going to do in your classroom. Again, there are times where they are going to facilitate, but you have to keep the order of your day going. Children thrive on that. They have to know, even little bitty guys, your toddlers, they know what's coming next in their day just because of what we've done. So for instance, if we're coming in and we're doing circle time in the morning, they know when we're done with circle time, it's time for snacks. So they're going to get up and go to the table. All you're doing is saying, okay, guys, let's go. It's time for circle time, or it's time for circle time, or it's time for snack time, or it's time to go outside. And maybe you have a little song that goes along with that to help with that transition. But children need that structure. They need that schedule where they do the same thing at the same time every day. It makes their day make sense to them. They don't realize they need it, but they really do need that. And that's key in a classroom, is to have that consistency of your schedule every day.
Awesome. And then, okay, so we've talked about the staff members carrying the stability of the work story, that they should be there, but also learning. Also, when does learning start? At what age?
learning starts from the second a baby is born. Everything that you do with that child is learning. So even if it's just holding a baby and you're talking to them, you're smiling at them, they are learning what to do from you. And it just continues from there. They are always watching. They are always learning. So whether it be good or bad things that they're learning from you, we hope that we're teaching them all the great things. But just remember, they always have their eye on you. They're always watching, and children learn every moment of their lives.
So you would say it's very important then to consider an early childhood program that incorporates those learning experiences. And in the decade, or in the last decades, we've seen a resurgence of this type of centers marketing themselves as, I'm a Montessori, I'm a Reggio inspired, and sometimes, or a STEM learning. And sometimes parents get confused by those, what are those philosophies? Which philosophy is better? And how could the parents really know if they're truly following the principles of these philosophies? What would you say about that? How could a parent start that type of search?
Right. So I think that number one, the parent has to do their research so that they know what it is that they're looking for. I think that most programs are successful in the way that they present their teachings. However, I think a great program is going to draw a little bit from everything. So you're going to take a little bit of that Reggio, where you're going to bring natural things into the classroom. You're going to do that Montessori, which is going to be that hands-on. I really think that a successful program is going to incorporate a little bit of everything. But you have to remember that the age that we're in is also leaning towards technology. And I think a great successful program is going to add technology into their program also. I'm not talking screen time. I'm talking technology. And I think that is a successful program when they have a little bit of all of it, and they add that technology piece into it as well.
And especially the early years is where we are actually the whole brain. We have to work it, right?
Absolutely.
So we need to have there are a lot of programs that say, I'm just a STEM program, whatever. That means that you're only working one side of the brain. Actually, in those early years, you're working the whole brain, because you have to develop those emotional skills, those the mindset that to keep learning for life, and then the content knowledge of what children should be doing. Okay, so let's say a parent. So what advice would you give parents on how to find the better learning and educational philosophy for their child, and where to start that research?
Right. Well, that research would definitely be started, looking at things like we are today, like a podcast, to look at podcasts, to kind of do their research online, to see what is going to be the best fit for their child. And then when they are touring facilities, they definitely want to, again, pay attention to what's going on in the classroom. Is everything in a classroom teacher-led, or is everything in the classroom child-led? Is there a good balance between them? And then also they're looking for that specialty. If Montessori is what you're looking, for, then, make sure that you are visiting a Montessori school, but don't discredit other centers. Definitely look at everything, but definitely do your research online before you go to the center. Have your list of questions ready, and then pay attention as you're walking around as well.
Absolutely. Okay. So, and actually our movement, we're pretty much a movement that started because we saw the need for more child-led, inspired, with a curriculum to train, unfortunately, a career that pretty much is not offered in universities and colleges anymore. But we saw a lot of programs that were practicing things that they should not, like direct learning. So we actually started by trying to change that. And unfortunately, either the programs were very structured and telling the kids how to write worksheets, with it's completely against the early childhood principle, right, or they were the other opposite. They were play-based, and pretty much you just like had your child there following a routine, but they were not really learning. Okay. So I think this is a very interesting conversation because the parent, how would the parent know what is the difference? What is the right thing for their child? Comparing and contrasting those different learning environments.
I think that the key facility for a child would be the parent has done their research. They found out what kind of school they're looking for. When they get to a school and they are taking that tour, that they are finding that they're watching everything that's going on. But it goes back to, you need an all-inclusive school, a school that is going to give your child the emotional support that they need, but is going to be able to foster, their learning, that is going to be able to go with the flow of your child as well. So you're looking for something that is going to be structured. You want it to be structured. You want to make sure that your child is going to be the focal point, and that the child is going to be able to lead their teachings. And I think that is, the parent has to go with their gut. When you walk in, you're going to be able to tell if this is the right facility or not for your child.
And at the heart of the school, the director of the entire show is a director.
It is. Okay? The director's the one that's going to give you that feel when you first walk into your school.
And that is a very hard career because you have to know about everything.
You do.
Not only you have to know about customer service, you really need to know a lot about child development, education, learning theories and all that. You need to know how to hire the teachers. What would you say has been like your biggest challenge as a director for so many years?
I think it's the staff. The staff are so crucial and so pivotal in your facility. At the end of the day, they're the ones that are with the children all day. I'm a director, but yet I'm not with the children, all day. It's finding those right teachers. That is the challenge of a director today, is finding that right teacher, and then fostering them, just like a teacher is fostering a child in the classroom. A director has to do that for their staff members. So they are teaching their staff the way of their program, and I think that is the key, is going to be the staff. That is the challenge, but yet that's the reward as well inside of the program, because they are the key for success inside of your facility. It all relies on your staff and finding those right teachers.
Wow. And then tell us about a good director always has policies in place. Sometimes
absolutely,
from the parent's perspective, you don't understand some of the policies. Like, why can't I bring like this peanut butter sandwich from home because my child likes it? So you are an enforcer of rules.
Absolutely.
So this position sometimes, but what do you think parents actually have trouble understanding sometimes in terms of the roles and the policies in a school?
I think that parents do have you're always going to have things that parents don't agree with. You have to be firm with what your policies are, but you have to make sure that they understand why that policy is there. So come on in, have a seat with me. Let's talk about, what I can do and what I cannot do. I think that you have to be clear in your communication, and you have to be upfront from the beginning. Let them know right when you're doing the tour. We are very communicative, and I also am very clear as to what I can and cannot do. I will always be upfront with you. You might not always like it, but I will always be upfront with you, and we can always have that conversation. I can explain to you why.
Yeah, because there's always a reason.
Yes.
But I think we've had just like a blast discussing this topic on how to choose a childcare center for your child. This has been such an amazing conversation on tips that are going to propel you into finding the best solution and the best center out there. There are many great centers with great directors and their teams offering the care and the compassion that children need to develop during the first years. So hopefully these pointers here at Raising Innovators brought light and answered a lot of your questions. And if you liked this episode, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, because we're on a mission to raise the next generation of innovators. Thank you so much for watching.